Kevin Walder, your host with the Oracle Scroll. Welcome back. Sorry it's been so long since we've talked, but I've been a little busy, so I'm going to address some of that in this episode, which is entitled, Honey, I Broke the Tarot. The Tarot. The Tarot has been such an important part of my life, spirituality, for many years. Gosh, I'm coming up on 30 years of looking at this. Anyway, it's a bit of time spent working through some of the intricacies of the tarot. Now, I have in my possession some of the most beautiful, colorful decks in the world. They are expressive and they carry so many messages. And that is important to us as a consultant or reader. We're called upon to interpret what these images mean. These images, however, can be quite different from person to person. What is calming and uplifting to one may be frightening and horrifying to another. So we have to kind of figure out where our client is, or ourselves, if in this case, where we are in our acceptance of these symbols. I kind of think of it as a little bit like our Constitution here in the United States. It's a rather vague document written by people who were, well, they were living in a whole different circumstance than we are. They had an entirely different view of life, an entirely different view of humanity and our interactions with nature and so forth. They had a totally different world than we have today. So sometimes the pronouncements that are plucked from the text of the Constitution seem confusing to us because they don't fit with our daily life. They don't really make a lot of sense to us as individuals in the 21st century. And I think that the tarot is very similar. Most of the decks that we have today are based on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which was put together in the early 1900s, 1910 in that area, 1911 in London. And if you could say the very same thing for the symbolism that's involved there, the system, the way of life, everything was different then than it is now. So sometimes when we're looking at the tarot, it can be somewhat confusing. And that is exemplified by the myriad different interpretations that are given to it. Each artist takes their own liberties with what scene they think will depict the feeling of that card. Some will depart radically from what we may have seen in the original Rider-Waite-Smith. Now that was just the most popular one. There are others that date back centuries. So the symbolism has had to change. It's something I have dealt with in my own personal life. There are some things that just, they put me off considerably. And key among those are religious references, especially those which reference Christian traditions. Cards such as the Hierophant, which is sometimes called the Pope in some decks. Cards like Judgment or the Devil. All of those are Christian concepts. They really don't resonate with someone who has evolved beyond that limited way of thinking. And I consider myself to have evolved that way. So removing those references has been a particularly important part of working with the tarot. Also, we in this country especially are totally unfamiliar with royalty and the concept of a ruling class. I mean, yes, we have them, but they're totally different now than they were then in the beginning, the inception of the understanding of these cards. So I have changed those cards as well so that they no longer really resonate with royalty so much as roles within a family. So rather than calling the page a page, I call it the child, because that is the energy that I see brought to any particular one. I did stick with the idea of a warrior. I thought about hunter as being one, but then that tends to be a bit more gender specific, and that's another area that I wanted to address. We have influences from all angles. We have non-gender specific influences from all angles. And so I wanted to eliminate as much as possible. I realize that there are some areas where it's not real easy to do, but eliminate the gender reference. Because a king in the cards can depict someone who is either male or female, or anywhere in between for that matter. I mean, it's more of an attitude and a way of working, but less about the gender of that person. We tend to get stuck on that. Oh, that's my feminine side, or that's my masculine side. Well, it's just you and me. it's just us. And that's the part that I wanted to kind of bring together for the tarot that I was working on for myself. So I started off, there are so many differences. I'm not going to enumerate them all here, but in future videos I will talk about some of those cards and how they are quite different from the meanings, perhaps, or at least the depictions that they've always been assigned. One of the favorite cards in the deck is the Fool. But it's such a derogatory term. It's such a demeaning term. It indicates that this person probably doesn't know what they're doing, but they're going to do it anyway. That's the whole kind of idea behind, well, I mean, if you're thinking of a fool, you're thinking of someone who's foolish, foolhardy, whatever. I called mine the Wanderer. Just because you may have settled upon your truth and settled upon your philosophy and settled upon your belief system, that doesn't mean I have. I may still be wandering around sifting through some of the archaeology, let's say, of what we're dealing with as human beings. I might be still searching years from now. That doesn't make my role any less valuable than yours. And vice versa, it doesn't make your role any more valuable because you found it, let's say. Sometimes finding it is not the end that we are looking for. Finding it could be the end of everything. But continuing to search and question and accept, that's the other part of it. Searching and questioning, but acceptance is required to be able to understand what is really being told to us. So I changed that card, the Wanderer. A little further on, what is often called, the Magician. That's the very next card. I called this card the Shaman. A shaman can be any particular gender. Doesn't have to be specific. The shaman is someone who is very in touch with nature and sees themselves as being connected to nature. And they are also very instrumental in leading others to that same kind of feeling. So it's a cooperative kind of working situation. And the shaman is someone who has a great deal of knowledge of the movements of the planets and the earth and the flora and the fauna. I called the next card the witch. Again, witches can be any gender, and they are involved in a little different kind of spirituality. Their expertise lies in putting together the right formulas of herbs and so forth, being healers. And those are qualities that we would want to expand upon in our spiritual life. Further on is the devil. The devil is a Christian concept. That is a biblical concept. Has no place in our philosophy. Has no place in modern spirituality, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't call him the devil. I can't remember what I did call it now, to be honest. And I'm doing this off the cuff. But eliminating that kind of negative, it's more of it's something that holds you back. It's something that is blocking your way, and so it's something that you can correct and change within yourself. And that's the part that I really want to explore by using this deck, is our own divinity. And that's not an arrogant kind of statement. We have divine power within us. You have divine power within you. I can recognize it within you. You recognize it within me. We put together a particular system that works for us and our own divinity. It is amazing the power that we possess. And we've been told forever that we can't trust it. It's not really there. It doesn't belong to us. We need to appeal to a higher power. Well, that higher power is your higher self, my higher self. It is within us. And all of our answers are just sitting there waiting for us to recognize them. As I mentioned, I eliminated the royalty. I used the child, the warrior, and the keeper. So keeper of the hearth, perhaps? The keeper of whatever, whether it be earth, wind, fire, or water. I used those terms and then the highest card in the suits would be the sage. So an age-related wisdom, someone who has been through life and seen many aspects of it that we may not have experienced, and is able to impart their wisdom, their way of looking at things. So that's what I've done with the tarot. This is, as I said, this is my own personal little project that I have been putting together to work with for myself. It isn't anything I'm hoping to market or put out in any way. I'm enjoying working with it, and as I've said about most decks that I work with, they can be extremely vocal, and they'll kick you in the butt and make you want to get to work. And that's really a good thing. That's how I use the tarot, is as a guide and a trigger to my intuition, just to say, this is the direction we want to go. So come along with us as we explore this deck, and I'll explain more about how I came up with some of the ideas that I expressed within it. So come along, and we hope to see you for the ensuing episodes as we describe and work with this tarot. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Please visit my website at kevinwalder.com, where you can purchase any of the services that I offer. Also, check out my books, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards, and 22 Teachers, Healing Lessons from the Major Arcana. Both are available now at Amazon.com. And most importantly, never miss another episode. Click below, click the subscribe button and the bell to make sure you're always up to date.